All right. Question was, when did I decide living a life of simplicity was so important? And I remember when I first left where I was living in Eugene to move to Portland, everything I owned pretty much fit in my trunk, and it felt really good. Look at these guys. It felt really good just to have few things. You know, I had just exactly what I needed. But then as I got established, I thought that, you know, you need a home and a wife and a car and toys and what ended up happening is that they ended up running my life. Like, I worked for my toys and things like that. Like, something was always breaking. Like, anytime extra money arrived somehow through savings or whatnot, I just knew that something was going to break, like a furnace or something like that. A car, a window, a stove, the washer and dryer, the downstairs sink would crack, you know. So like, I was constantly working to keep my house going. So I wanted to ride across the country, and it took me several years to save up enough money to go away for 4 months while also paying all my bills behind me. I went riding across the country, and it was so great. I like pretty much everything I needed was in 3 bags on my bike, and then my 4th bag had books and my radio and you know, craft stuff, you know, entertainment things. This way, Keela. Oh, there's a lot of flies here. That's a bad sign. And I remember meeting somebody, and I was riding with them, and they were having a terrible time. Like, their bike wasn't behaving right, and it had these like power shimmies. You know, when it got up to high speed, it started shaking like crazy. And I'm like, well, let's unload your bags. And they had all these things, and I was like, how often do you use this? And they're like, every once in a while. And I'm like, well, how many times a week maybe? They're like, oh, maybe once a week. I'm like, so maybe 4 times a month? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, this is heavy, and you're not even using it. Like, you got to get rid of it. And they're like, no, I can't. I like that. I spent a lot of money on it. And that's the thing. It's like, their idea was they were going to ride across the country. This one. But really what they were doing, like, their trip was being wrecked by their possessions. I mean, it's like, for some reason, they had to have this thing. Hey, Keela, back this way, bud. And I realized that was kind of what happened to me. Like I thought I had to have a house, and I thought I had to have these things. And each and every one of those things required effort and money. And the more of those things I had, the more money and effort was required, until eventually I was a servant to my possessions. And like, I had that experience in different movies and books, or inspirations that, you know, for me to live a simple life. And it occurs to me, like, I have things in storage. Oh my gosh, look at this guy. I have things in storage. Well, you've seen my storage. Mostly it's camping gear. But it seems to me that of all the years I've had stuff in storage, I've rebought it over and over and over again. So even those few things I have cost me, well, they still haven't stopped costing me money. I'm rebuying my canoe. I'm rebuying my tents all the time. So, yeah, I just thought, as simple as I could be, the better it would be. Oh, you know what? Sometimes people say, when I say I'm taking a month off from work, they're like, how could you afford it? I'm like, how could you not afford it? And I realized that most people do expand their life to the extent of how much money they make, until the only way they're going to live even more comfortably is they have to either work harder or get a higher paying job, where they have to even work even harder to make sure they didn't lose that, because suddenly, like, it's like an upside down pyramid that you're constantly expanding, and you have to work harder and harder and harder to keep it from flipping over. Oh. Yeah. So seems like free time. I just realized free time's way more important than money, and my few responsibilities are more than enough, and nothing even comes close to being financially or effort-wise overwhelming. So yeah, I'm almost a low-stress life. Not stress-free, but I'm certainly not pushed to the max like I know a lot of people are. So simple living, simple living.